Tacos, everybody loves tacos. Today we're making a taco platter. This is super easy, basic tools to make it. It's very profitable, and I have a template for you to make it even easier. All right, let's get started. Hey, welcome back to the shop, everybody. Today's going to be a fun project. We're going to make a taco platter. It's going to be an easy project. You don't need a lot of tools. You don't need to get too fancy, but it makes for a great gift. Or if you want to put it in your Etsy store, it would sell. So there's no doubt about it. So I made this template this morning on my Montour CO2 laser, and it's available for sale. It'll be in the show notes. So when you get a template like this, it's got this protective coating on it. And the first thing we want to do is remove the paper. I'm not going to bore you to do this on video, but once we get that taken care of, then we're going to lay this out. And I picked out a special piece of wood. Right now it's kind of drab and dull looking, but check out this grain. It's kind of like fish scales. So that's going to make for a beautiful taco platter. We're going to cut this out to shape, and you can either cut this out with your jigsaw, or if you have a bandsaw, whatever floats your boat. Now I'm going to cut it out with my bandsaw, and I'm going to use my flesh trim bit on my router table to get these precise edges. So you can do it any way you want. And then once we get that done, we're going to be sinking some holes in here using this as a template. And I'm going to use like a walnut, excuse me, a maple kind of dowel, 3/8 inch dowel. And in the very end, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking maybe laser engrave something. So we'll see what happens there. All right, so I'm going to pan down and I'll show you how to adhere this template, and we'll get going. Well, as you can see, I've removed the paper from the template. It looks pretty cool. So, and the reason you remove the paper, one, you want to be able to see through your template so you can better lay out what you're doing. And then secondly, that paper may fail over time. And if you're using your flesh trim bit, I'd hate to see anybody get hurt by having that paper not adhere to the wood using our little double stick tape. So here I'm just going to simply mark this out. I've laid it out where I want it to be. And we'll take this over to the bandsaw and cut about an 1/8 inch over the line. The reason we do that is we don't want to get too close, but then again, we don't want to be so fat and try to make that flesh trim bit do things that it's not designed to do. Okay, so I am laid out. We don't need to do anything with this because I'm going to use the holes on my drill press as a template. If you don't have a drill press, no worries. You can use your handheld drill and drill accordingly. So perfect. I'm going to take this over to the bandsaw and we will keep moving. I've got this cut out to shape, but now I need to take care of this handle right here. So I'm just going to use a spade bit, my handy drill, and we'll poke a couple holes. And then I'll use my jigsaw to rough this out. And then we can get over to the router table. Our next step is to get some double-sided tape on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply it on the template. This stuff goes on real easy, and it's a lifesaver. I love using double-sided tape. So I'll just lay a few of these out. This is a fun project, and what's cool is, I'm probably going to be done in a half hour. It takes me longer because I'm talking to you on the video, but it's a quick project, and I do enjoy that. The piece of wood, it's this is 7 inches by 18 inches long. So it's walnut. It's not terribly expensive. So you might have maybe $10 into this project. See what I'm doing here with my awl? It's a nice way to get this paper up Otherwise, you start picking at it and it can be a little frustrating. So this just saves time. And, I'm all about saving time. This is something I do for a living. And I want to make sure that I'm using my time wisely. Okay, so I am going to lay this out. Make sure I'm got some fat of the wood all the way around it. Looking good. Perfect. Give it a good squeeze, and we're heading over to the router table right now. I wanted to give you an up close and personal on the flush trim bit. It's one of my favorite tools. So this bearing right here, there we go, is above the wood and it rides along the acrylic. The blade is covering the wood, and you definitely want to make sure that you have this set up correctly. Otherwise, you're cutting into your acrylic and you've ruined a template. So obviously you don't want to do that. So take your time on the setup. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reposition and I'll just show you how this is done in time lapse, and it'll save your ears. Well, that sure made short work of this. Now, if you don't have a router table, don't worry about it. Cut your best lines, whether it be with your jigsaw or your bandsaw, and then take your oscillating sander and just clean up the edges. It'll be just fine. Now, we're going to do a round over on this next. And again, if you don't have a router table or a handheld router, you can round over an edge with your oscillating sander. So it's pretty easy. So to get the template off, just a little putty knife, find a corner, and get in there. Just gently pry up. There you go. And as I've said many a time, go ahead and get the tape off right away. It tends to come off easier. Sometimes if you let it sit too long, it'll leave adhesive on your template. So that's me being a little anal, I admit. Okay, so I'm going to go set up the router table, and we're going to do a round over on all the edges, including the handle. I've got my round over in there, and I've adjusted the height to where I think it's going to work out just fine, but I never trust that. I always use a scrap piece of wood first, just like this. Okay, that's perfect. I like that. It's going to work out just fine. So, a word about the router table. If you've noticed, this is a Bosch router table, and I've got a Bosch router inside. And I don't want you to think, wow, Derek's got this, it must be good. I don't like either one of these tools. They're very poorly built, deeply disappointing, and this will be replaced here one of these days sooner than later. But in time lapse, let's get this done. We need to get that template remounted, and we'll use a double-sided tape. I think in the future what I would do is not do the round over first, but actually just put the template on first and drill my holes. And the reason being is that the round over kind of changes the shape a little bit, so it's going to take me a little bit more time to register this. So for what it's worth, I'm going to go ahead and get this tape on, and I'll meet you over at the drill press in just a moment. Okay, welcome to my little Wen benchtop drill press. I gotta say, it's a decent little tool. It didn't cost me hardly any money, and I never thought I would use it. In fact, it dust collected for about a year and a half, 2 years. And this last 6 months or so, between cutting board stands where I'm using dowels and things, I've been using a lot of it, of this tool, and it works just fine. It's a small tool, so it's underpowered. It's not going to be a workhorse, but I gave you a little feedback on my Bosch router system over there, and so I'm giving you a little feedback on the Wen. This was a great entry-level tool for me, so no complaints. Now I've got my depth set, so each time I drill it's going to be identical with all of these holes, and that's important because I'm going to cut all the dowels the same length, and I don't want this kind of wavy gravy thing going on. If you don't have a drill press, use your drill, your handheld drill. Use some blue tape around the drill bit so you can see what your depth is, and just check that periodically to make sure that it's not creeping on you. So the holes are a little bit bigger than my 3/8 inch drill bit. And what I have to do is carefully register this to make sure that I'm not drilling into the acrylic. So, well, I really like the way the template worked out. Guiding those holes was perfect, and I've got an even depth and all there, so that's going to be fine. My dowels are just going to slide right in like that, and we'll put a dab of glue on there. So now what I need to do is I need to sand this out. I'm going to start at 120. It's got quite a few streaks, so that might take just a minute, but I'll go 120, 180, and 220, and then we're going to water pop it to raise the grain. Once that wood dries, we're going to go ahead and sand it again at 220 very lightly, and then we'll talk about finishes and cut our dowels and get them glued in, and we're going to wrap this up. So yeah, do check out in the show notes if you're interested in the template. I think you're really going to like that. Okay, off camera, I'm going to sand. You don't need to watch me do that, but we'll come back and get the finish on and finish this project up. Okay, so this has been sanded, water popped, final sanded, feels lovely, and it's now time for dowels. And I just want to bring up, if you do buy one of the templates, I'm going to include 3 dowels for you so you can go ahead and cut them to your preferred size. I'm doing 2 inches here, but that way you don't have to buy a box of dowels. Okay, let's get up to the bandsaw and get this thing done. So with the dowels, I've got just a tiny bit of a burr on all sides here. So I'm going to take that off with the oscillating sander just like this. And I'll do that with all 14 of these dowels. And then we're going to be ready to finish this wood. Well, here comes the exciting part. We're going to get to see this wood just come to life. Now, I'm going to do a 2-step finish. I'm going to start with my board butter. It's a great product. I have it in bulk, obviously, so I'm not wasting all those little plastic bottles. But let's check this out. Isn't that something? I knew that fish scale effect would just really pop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a healthy coat of this board butter. I'm going to let it sit about 20 minutes, let it soak in. You can see it already has just sucked it up. And then my next step is I'm going to wipe off any excess. I'm going to then apply some carnauba, which you'll see, and that will give it a lovely sheen. I'm not worried about these holes because no one's going to see those, right? Okay, I'll finish this up off camera, and we'll come back and apply some wax here in just a few minutes. Isn't that gorgeous? Wow. Well, I've wiped off any excess. It really absorbed the board butter. And now I'm going to go and use my Sawdust and Splinters Carnauba Wood Finish and Polish. I've got a link to both of those products in my show notes. You can get a discount if you use my coupon code. And this is beautiful stuff. Isn't that gorgeous? Beautiful golden color. It doesn't take a lot of material to get this done. Now you can apply this with a clean cloth, or you can do what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my buffing system just because I can put an extra sheen on there. So here we go. So in this case, it's only going to be my battery drill as opposed to my big buffer, which is this dude here. This would be kind of overkill for a small project like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and work this stuff in. So off camera, I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then we're going to assemble the taco platter and call it a done deal. Initially, I thought, I'm going to go ahead and glue those dowels in. I've changed my mind. And the reason being is that this could be a dual purpose board. We can put the dowels in, but they can be removed, and this would make for a nice serving platter. Let's wipe this down. I mean, that's awfully pretty. So yeah, I think we're just going to do a compression fit on these. And they're very simple to install. Of course, you've sanded it down just a tiny bit, and these will go in. You gotta wiggle, shimmy, and shake it a little bit, and it's in there. So very simple to do. And again, if you get the template kit, I will include those dowels for you. Okay, I'm going to finish this up, and we'll come back and talk about the project. Well, this turned out beautifully, and I can hardly wait to get some tacos on there, which is going to happen as soon as I'm done filming. So here's the skinny. I've got $10 in materials in this. I'm going to turn around and sell this on my Etsy store for $55. And that'll be a fair price. It's a fun gift item. And I think people are going to dig it. So there's that. That works out to be about $67, $68 an hour. So if we're keeping tabs, so that's a decent level of income. So I like that. Okay, what's coming up next? I've got a laser class. It's going to be a series that I'm going to be able to help people with laser engravers to get started and find good material, good files. So stay tuned for that. I've also got another project, a new template, and I'll be sharing that shortly. So lots coming up. And you won't miss a beat if you hit subscribe and hit the bell so you can get all of my notifications. Thank you for following along. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to hanging out with you next time.